Greetings, Gemini. Brett here with the 2023 edition of Stellarium Astronomy Software for Astrologers. This is video number 4. In part 1, we downloaded and installed the software. In part 2, we cast a chart for a known place in the Stellarium database. In part 3, we added an unknown place. We found the latitude and longitude, elevation of a place, named it, and we even saved it as a default. And here in part 4, we're going to explore these bottom menu buttons here. Okay, let's go right to left. Don't push that button. Well, let's see what it does. It was a power button and it didn't turn off my computer. It turned off my Stellarium. Okay, so you can push Command Q to quit Stellarium like you can quit most programs. I guess that's Control Q on Mac or on PC. I'm on a Mac, just so you know. Anyway, or you can click this button and it closes Stellarium. There's buttons here that are both highlighted. And two things. One, it says that the time is playing. So just in my circle there, you can see 4, 10, 08, 09, 10 p.m., right? That's real time, clock time from my computer. If I click pause, then it pauses. And you can see pause is highlighted to let you know that time is paused, but you can also see here on the clock down below, or if you want to open the larger clock from our date and time window here, you'll see that time has stopped. Okay, so now 16:10 or 4:10 p.m. is in the past. This button right next to the pause or play button, depending on what's happening for you, is snap to real time. So now it's actually 4:10:42. By the way, that thing that just happened is I clicked this Julian day up above the time display, which will then express time in Julian day, or what is this one? Modified Julian day. I found out when I hovered over that. So if this happens to you, just click on the left over here for date and time. And by the way, this is something I can like move around. All right. Maybe I'll move it here as we're exploring. So I can snap to the real time. Oh, I am going to put this in the upper left so we can see both more easily. This clock is paused. It says 4:10:42. It's now 4:11:28 p.m. locally. Okay, I can click play, and then when I snap to real time, it's no longer an option to push real time. I am there. All right, but again, if I pause that, then real time becomes an option. Not a surprise that the buttons here on the left and the right are fast forward and rewind. I will say that you can click these multiple times. So right now we're moving forward in time. You can see the seconds moving faster than a second per second. And just notice that time if I push forward again and again, and now the sky starts spinning. Like, this is a really wonderful thing about Stellarium, is I get to witness what the southern sky does for a northern hemisphere place like this, El Sobrante, California, and California's Bay Area. And I can do that in real time, or like too fast time. Careful here, this is going to start spinning really quickly, okay? So if you're sensitive to fast spins, look away. So I'm going to push that again, and now we're just cruising. I mean, now we're just going by days, February 7th, 8th, 9th. I just saw my father and stepfather's birthday flash before my eyes, reminding me to get a present. Anyway, so let me stop that. I can just hit play, and now it's real time again. See how the play is highlighted. I can hit that again. Now it says pause. That means time is stopped. If I want to go back to right now, the right now button. And as I imagine, I can click rewind. And the more I click it, the faster the rewind goes. By the way, while it's rewinding super fast like that, if I push fast forward once, it doesn't move it forward. It moves it less reverse, right? So it's like, let's say it's reversing at like 3 times reverse. If I push fast forward, then it's reversing 2 times, reversing 1 time. Eventually, I hit fast forward so many times that it stopped reversing at all, and then it brought it to pause, as you can see here. Let's turn that to play, and I'll just show you, like, fast forward 1, 2, 3. 3 becomes noticeable. Reverse is now, I hit reverse once, that's fast forward 2. reverse twice and it's fast forward 1. I hit reverse again and I'm at real time. See how that goes? So you can just kind of toggle back and forth. When we get into keyboard shortcuts, we will see how we can kind of easily do that kind of stuff. I'll just say for now, K is second per second. L, these are the default keyboard shortcut settings. You can change that. But L is fast forward. L again, faster, faster. K, second per second. J, rewinds. And then an odd one is that 7 key is stop and 8 key is right now. And by the way, as I'm hovering over these buttons on that control panel, look in the lower left here where my circle is right now. So there's nothing there right now. There is when I hover over help window, you see F1. As I scroll up here, you'll see that the keyboard shortcut in brackets is kind of traveling with my mouse. But down here in the lower panel, now you need to look over here in the corner, okay? So when I'm hovering over fast forward, you say increase time speed, bracket L. That's the keyboard shortcut, right? Set time to now, bracket 8 is the keyboard shortcut. Set normal time rate, K, right? Keyboard shortcut. Rewind, J. So it's like JKL, all right? And then JKL 8, 7, okay. Set normal time rate. Yeah, that's not like pause though. Anyway, I guess I didn't see pause down there at all, but pause is 7. Great, so power button time control is pretty self-explanatory, right? What does this image that looks like a satellite do? Well, notice that it says over there, artificial satellites. And Command Z, that's a Mac image, that weird butterfly looking thing. On PC, maybe, or Windows, maybe the default is Control Z. I don't know, but if you're on a PC, you'll see what it is for you, okay? I can click this and then artificial satellites come on. I don't see any on the screen currently. I'm kind of surprised not to see some because there are so many dang satellites in our sky. But maybe I need to turn on satellite labels or something, or I don't know, or maybe time needs to be more like stopped and then they'll zoom by. I have no idea. I don't want them on anyway. I'd take them all away if I could, although I do enjoy the benefits of satellites sometimes, do I not? So gratitude. All right, so as you can see, I can just toggle back and forth. If that satellite icon is illuminated, that means satellites are turned on in Stellarium. If it's not illuminated, they are turned off. By the way, we're going to see later as we get a little bit more advanced, you can actually add different menus down here to the bar below. There's a few things I definitely want to add. You can take some things away. Like this button here, which you can see toggle meteor showers, right? So I can turn that on and off. It's showing me a keyboard shortcut of Shift Command M. Yeah, maybe I want that, maybe I don't. Next door, we see show exoplanets. Oh my gosh, look at all these planets we've discovered outside of our solar system. What is this business? What? That doesn't feel like it could be real, huh? But oh my gosh, these are all exoplanets, and I guess we've just pointed telescopes deep into that area. Wild. Wild. Okay, so exoplanets, super cool. I'm not personally too concerned with them, especially in the astronomy for astrologers. So I'm going to turn exoplanets off. The button next door you can see is already illuminated and you see it's full screen. Okay, so if I click that, I go not full screen. I mean, that can be super helpful if I want to have like a chart on one side and the Stellarium on the other, right? Because if I'm full screen, I need to kind of go back and forth between different windows. Typically, I do show Stellarium in full screen like this. And so that just toggles back and forth, and you can see there's a keyboard shortcut already programmed in, which is F11. Next door to that, night mode, Command N. So, I mean, this is for you if you're outside with your Stellarium, like if you bring a laptop outside, the Stellarium mobile apps, which I will also do little instructional videos for. And this is a way where I can engage with the sky, not by day where I'm being blinded by the sun right now, but at night where my light sensitivity allows me to see the stars. But if I look at a glowing laptop screen, that's going to like steal my star view. You know what I mean? So for people who use Stellarium to drive telescopes, and then we'll bring a laptop outside or like a tablet or something like that. Typically, you would operate in this way. And again, if you just want to bring it outside and kind of compare the sky and the Stellarium to get to know what you're looking at up there, it's good to use that night mode. We're going to take that off. Next to it, we see center on selected object. Okay, well, I happen to have accidentally selected this object called LDN787. I'm going to select something that's quite visible, like this bright star Vega. And then as you can see here, center on selected object, and then the brackets, it says spacebar. Okay, so as I do that, now Vega is just in the center of my screen. We're going to find in keyboard shortcuts, there's ways to zoom in and zoom out. But here, I'm going to use the trackpad on my laptop here. And for the Mac, the default, I think, this might be more in your like trackpad settings or mouse settings, regardless of what kind of platform you're on. Here, I can use a 2-finger in and out. I know I've set that up in my trackpad settings. So I'm just zooming in and out. The keyboard shortcuts for that are Command plus and Command minus, or on PC. Actually, you know what? I said that. I'm realizing that's not true. That's sending me through time. How do I know stars are moving? Okay, so that's not the thing. I just, by the way, used a key. So let me click on Arcturus. I'm going to hit spacebar. That's the keyboard shortcut, centered Arcturus. I'm just going to zoom in. Okay. Well, I don't know if this is default setting or not. But I just use the backslash key beneath the delete key, and that like zoomed me all the way back out again. It might be, yeah, that's like set to a certain level of zoom. I'm actually going to change that later because there's a way where you can change that key to like snap to your saved view. So let's get back to that as well. Clicking on these things and then right clicking, which on my Mac trackpad is set up to be a 2-finger click or a control click, right? But if you have a mouse with a left and a right click button, then I think it's left click will select the thing, and then right click will unselect the thing. Okay, and if anything selected, like Regulus here, I hit the space bar, and now I'm centered in on it, right? Or Procyon, and I hit the space bar, or I hit this menu option here where all the arrows are pointing towards the center, and I'm centered in on it. Great. Switch between equatorial and azimuthal mount. Should we describe that? I mean, this is really kind of a telescope thing. I'm going to move through time here. If I'm in an equatorial mount, which just happened, then I'm going to follow this thing through the sky. And in this case, as you can see, like underground. And this thing in this case is the bright star of the little dog, Procyon. And so an equatorial mount in like the telescope world or like time-lapse photography world or something, it is set so that the camera will spin at the same rate, or the telescope will spin at the same rate as the spinning sky because of the spinning earth. And that way you keep something centered like this, right? So for people who are taking like those incredible photos of the skies these days, they're stacking all sorts of images. This is what they're doing, okay? Where I'm really teaching astronomy for astrologers here, for me, and I'm just gonna, I think while this is moving, switch this to an azimuthal mount. I'm gonna wait for Procyon to be up above the ground like that. And like this is a very different vibe, right? Oh, interesting. I'm centered on it because actually of that other keyboard shortcut. Let's see what happens if I unclick that. So the azimuth, the equatorial mount is still following it. Hold on. Is everybody else getting dizzy? I'm gonna wait till Procyon's up above the ground again. There. I'm gonna unselect Procyon. I just right clicked. And then move through time. Now I'm on an azimuthal mount. In other words, my feet are on the ground. Azimuth and altitude are what are called the horizontal coordinate system. Altitude up and down, azimuth around and around, like a compass heading, right? Like for me right now, that's west, that's north, east, south. It's over here. The sun is in the southwest, and it's at a specific azimuth. Okay, maybe I'll show that to you before we end here as we start to look at some of the information display. So here I'm in an azimuthal grid. It's just like feet on the ground. You can see I'm looking east. I can click and drag the ground and kind of go up and down, right? In and out. I'm using my trackpad for that. We're moving fast through time. I'll slow that down just a little bit. So this is like azimuthal. As I switch to the equatorial mount, now you can see that I'm actually kind of following the spinning sky. You know, there's so much more to say about that, but it's as much as we're gonna need for astronomy for astrologers until we get like deep. So things in class will inspire me to talk about equatorial mounts and more about the primary motion and that, but for now, I just want to keep my feet on the ground, okay? Because the most important thing, at least at first, is I'm here to help folks see that the chart is a map of the sky, and we can see the chart in the sky, and therefore bring more sky into the chart. All right, I'm going to stop time, 7 key. I'm going to go to right now, the 8 key. And actually, yeah, so here's that sun, which is just kind of beaming at me right now. As I'm clicking this, and it just looks like the default in Stellarium is so much information. As we move through the F2 menu, I'm going to show you how you can choose how much of that stuff you want to see, okay? But a thing I would point you to right now is azimuth and altitude. Since that word azimuth came up, azimuthal grid, it just means compass heading. The convention is north is 0 degrees. And then it increases towards the east. East is square to the north, right? 90 degrees. The south is opposite the north. All astrologers know opposition, 180 degrees. So the azimuth convention is south is 180, west is 270. Right now, the sun where I'm sitting is right in between. It's like at a kind of cross direction or one of the smaller points of the compass rose. It's like south 180, west 270. It's right around 225, I bet. And I see right here the azimuth is 238, okay? So a little closer to west than south. And then this is altitude, showing me that it's 10 degrees above the horizon. And well, we're going to get right back to altitude and azimuth. But before, we're going to continue our journey through these menu items. Next to the switch between equatorial and azimuthal mount, I find planet labels. So you can see right in the center of the screen, Venus, Saturn, Sun, all labeled. When I click that, they go away. The keyboard shortcut, I'm sure it looks different on PC. That's a weird symbol that Mac uses for the option button. So I can see I can just do option P, and it's going to take the planet labels away and bring them back. You'll see here that the star labels remained, like Altair just above the W for west, or Fomalhaut in the kind of center of the screen. So star labels have their own button somewhere in the menus and their own keyboard shortcut. Okay, next to that planet labels picture of Saturn, we find deep sky objects. Okay, so as I click that, you see things like Pegasus cluster just came up. Elephant's Trunk Nebula. That seems cool. Maybe I can click on that, push the space bar, center on it, just zoom way in, and we get an image of the Elephant's Trunk Nebula. Does that look like, I guess we're looking into the elephant's trunk? Okay. How about the garnet star? Zooming in. Does it look like a garnet? I don't know. I mean, not the highest resolution in this particular app when we get super close. Star lizard cluster. I wonder what kind of beings come from there. I'm zooming in. I'm seeing kind of nothing. Anyway, so in the astronomy for astrologers realm, I'm not so concerned with the nebula. I mean, they're amazing. You know, rock on. Would love to see them through a telescope and whatnot. Most of these are not naked eye objects. They're deep sky objects. Okay, so I'm gonna have them off, and usually I actually even take that button off of my menus. Now next to it, you can see this compass rose looking thing, right? So we have a compass rose up here in the upper left, which is our location window menu, you will remember. But this one here, what it does is it adds or takes away the compass headings that are on the horizon, like W for west. So as I click that, you see they go away. You can also see there's a bracket telling me that there is a keyboard shortcut. The default setting, at least in this particular version of Stellarium, and for Mac, it's what I've always known, is Q. Okay, so as I type the Q key on my keyboard, in and out they go. All right. Next to this, we find one that is not currently illuminated, atmosphere. When I click that, suddenly it's daytime, as it is, as you can see from my like glowing mirror of a face. The sun is just right there, okay? So I'm kind of currently facing this direction here, just a little bit south of southwest, I guess. I mean, I'm actually facing southwest. It's important to remember that that screen outside is a lot bigger than this one here. That's the closest I can do to model it. Actually, this one's, I'm way further out than I could ever see with my eyes. And there's also a ceiling here, so I can't see this moon. But the moon is further than a trine from the sun right now, so probably have to turn my head anyway. All right, so atmosphere, or keyboard shortcut A, dims the atmosphere of Earth, takes it away, so then I can see stars by day, which is great. I mean, even if, like, let's go LLL, I'm gonna have the sunset here. And I can see Venus, but I can't really see stars yet. I can't see Saturn. Here's Saturn. My feeling just being outside last night, and I want to give a little more focus tonight, is I might have seen Saturn for the last time as an evening star. The sun just day by day right now is chasing Saturn down. I'm not sure. I'm going to go to right now. Pause time. All right, A to turn the atmosphere on and off. G to take the ground away and bring the ground back in. We won't see this option until a little bit later, but for now, I'll just show you if you take the ground away, it can be nice to bring in the horizon, which is the default shortcut is H for horizon. Okay, so A to take the atmosphere away, G to bring the ground in and out. But when it's out, sometimes it can be nice to have that horizon line. As you can see, and Q, remember it takes the cardinal directions in and out. You can see that the cardinal directions are on the ground or on the horizon, right? So even if I don't have my H key on, when I take the ground away, I can tell where the ground is just through the compass headings. If I want to take screenshots or something, I can just take the compass headings away. I can take that horizon line away, and I can like explore down beneath the ground and not even really know where the ground is. It feels like I'm out in space. All right, so ground, H, there, Q, cardinal directions. All right. So we are almost done with our menu items here. The rest of these, including ground, compass headings, and atmosphere, are parts of the mobile version. So if you watch my instructional video for that, you're already familiar with these. And these are there too, and I'm excited to show you how to add another grid also. But for now, let me show you this azimuthal grid. All right, so these lines, especially with how bright the sun is in my eyes right now, they're not really showing up too much for me. In fact, even to talk about them right now, I just need to do a thing. And trust me, we're going to go through all this stuff soon enough. All right, now they're super thick on my screen. So altitude up and down, right? Convention is that the horizon has 0 degrees of altitude. And then you can see here 5 degrees, 10 degrees, 15, 20, 25, 30. The top of the sky, the zenith, is 90 degrees of altitude. And then negative altitude is down beneath the ground. So that's what the azimuthal grid does for me. It kind of gives me this dome of the heavens with altitude up and down, and azimuth, remember, around and around, where the convention is that north equals 0. So I can't see it because of the glare right now, but I think I'm probably circling a 0. And yeah, I see this is 10 degrees azimuth, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. East is 90. Okay. So northeast is 45. If I zoom out, well, it looks like they're keeping these like 10-degree divisions. No, when I zoomed in now, 90, 95, 105-degree divisions. You can get even much more resolution by zooming way in, okay? So that's the azimuthal grid, altitude up, negative altitude down below the ground. So if I take the ground away, we're going to see negative 10 degrees, negative 20, negative 30. And the nadir, which is right down beneath our feet, is negative 90 degrees altitude. There's no such thing as negative azimuth, because azimuth is just around and around the circle of your horizon. And again, the convention is north is 0, and therefore north is 360 degrees, right? Where the circle begins again. And so it's 720, all the 360s, right? Okay, great. Enough for the azimuthal grid, I believe. Bring the ground back. I'm going to take that grid away. You can see the keyboard's default is the Z key. And we're going to adjust a bunch of these keyboards. I like Z to do something else personally. Next to the azimuthal grid, the equatorial grid. So I can see the celestial pole where the axis of Earth points in my sky, right there in the center of the equatorial grid. Let me spin the sky. The northern sky spins counterclockwise. And we see that motion here. The southern sky spins clockwise. There is a pole of this spin too, to take the ground away, and it's down there. Because I'm in a location 38 degrees north of the equator, this is 38 degrees below the horizon. Over here, 38 degrees above the horizon, something I call the latitude principle, because the altitude of the celestial pole is equal to your latitude on Earth. That you will learn in class. I want to stop time for now. This is Polaris, pole star, North Star, because it's aligned to our north celestial pole. In our day and age, that changes with Earth's third or tertiary motion, axial precession. So if we went back to another time, like I'll just throw, oops, that's space, date and time window. I'm just going to throw a little negative in front of 2023 there. And now I'm 2023 BC, and Polaris is nowhere to be seen. This is Polaris. All right. Not always our pole star. Much, much more about that in Astronomy for Astrologers class. All right. So the equatorial coordinate system is a system of right ascension and declination. Right ascension is a measurement along the celestial equator, which always passes through the cardinal directions east and west. If you live further from the equator, it's going to be higher in your sky. If you live south of the equator, it's going to be in your northern sky instead of your southern sky. But either way, the celestial equator, which is simply Earth's equator projected into space, will always move through the cardinal directions east and west. And that has an equatorial y coordinate of 0 degrees. That's called declination, okay? So Arcturus here, for example, who we see, I don't know, 2 grid marks above the celestial equator. I know this one that I'm circling is the celestial equator because it moves through cardinal east and west. If these are 10 degrees divisions, then Arcturus would have a declination of 20 degrees north, maybe 19, okay? This says 40 right here. Yeah, so 40, 30, 20, 10, equator moving through cardinal west and east. So let's go look over here and we find that Arcturus has a right ascension of declination on this date. The right ascension 14 hours and 17 minutes. The declination positive 19, in other words, 19 degrees north of the celestial equator. As far as right ascension goes, that's a measurement. Like let's go back to this azimuthal grid. Altitude up and down, okay, azimuth around and around the horizon, right? So positive altitude is north, or no, above the horizon, negative altitude below the horizon, azimuth around and around. Equatorial declination, positive declination north of the ecliptic plane, so higher in the northern hemisphere sky. Negative declination south. I misspoke earlier, so let me just rewind. Retrograde, correct something. Not north of the ecliptic plane, north of the celestial equator. Okay. We'll get to ecliptic coordinates. Latitude is north or south. Celestial latitude is north or south of the ecliptic. Declination is north or south of the equator, the equatorial coordinate declination. Okay, so Arcturus has about 19 degrees north declination and so many hours of right ascension, which is around and around the equatorial plane where this projects to the equator, measured from, well, frankly, 0 degrees tropical Aries. Get into that more like down the road, and especially in the astronomy for astrologers class, okay? Speaking of class, what class of star is Arcturus? Well, we're going to explore that stuff more when we get to this gigantic options for information display. But let us just finish this one first. I'm going to take by the E shortcut, which I'm definitely going to reassign the equatorial grid away. I can push this button too. Okay, finally, these 3 on the left, they're all constellation markers. I'm actually going to start with the one on the most left. This turns constellation lines on and off. We will find a menu where we can change their color, we can change their thickness, all sorts of things. But for now, just know that the shortcut C for constellation, or that button in the very lower left, turns constellation lines on and off. We will find a place where we can change the star lore and not just look at Ophiuchus as like this image of a serpent tender, all of the Western tradition, if you will. Okay, how did I get the art for them on? Well, this little kind of running man with a star head, that's art, or you have a keyboard shortcut R for art. Okay, so R turns the art on and off. And then in between, I skipped one. It looks like the keyboard shortcut default is V, or this button here for constellation labels. And now you see Ophiuchus and Serpens. They used to be one constellation until the International Astronomical Union got to them in 1929 and decided to cut the snake in half. Anyway, Scorpius, Libra, Virgo, I prefer to keep those off, especially for zodiacal constellations, because signs and constellations are very different things. And I prefer to reserve these names like Libra and Virgo for signs, where I use terms like scales and priestess for constellations. But that's just me. That's what I was taught. It's what I like to teach as well. It's important to differentiate between the two. Well, that was a long jam. Number 4. Well, but we finished our trip through all of the lower menu items with some information in between. As I said before, we're going to find options later to take some of these menu items away, to add different menu items down there, like the ecliptic grid. It's a good one. But I think we've had enough Stellarium for astrologers today. We're going to find that the videos are going to be long like this, and probably even longer as we go and play with the left menu items, which comes next, coming soon to a theater called you, Stellarium for Astrologers 2023 edition, number 5. Until then, my friends, I will see you in space.